All right, so we're going to start with a quiz. Actually, the whole thing is a quiz. I want you to ask yourself this question. And the reason I think it's important that you consider how you answer it is that it will determine how wealthy you are for the next 5 to 20 years. Now, the first and most recently popular way to answer this question is to say that your mom is worth exactly what anybody will pay for her, right? Now, and I don't say that strictly to be provocative. If you think about it, if you're Hallmark, say, you might decide that your mom is worth $1.50 to acquire her as a customer. If you run a retirement home, you might decide that your mom is worth several $1,000s because over the course of however long she stays there, that's the kind of money that you would be getting back from her. So the point for that is that financial systems have evolved and have recently been getting much, much better at getting faster, more efficient, and greater fidelity in the number of dollars and cents that they can extract from any person, good, or service. So that's the first way to answer the question. Your mom is worth some money. The second way to answer it is to think back to what we did before we had money. So if I was a potter and I lived in a small village, I might need some meat, so I might go to the butcher and say, hey, butcher, I got some pots. Would you like some pots? Because I'm hungry. And the butcher might say yes, in which case, great, you got yourself some steak. But if not, then you had to rely on your relationships, right, or your reputation with that person. And he might say, well, come back this fall. I'm going to need some pots then. Here's some steak in the meantime. And you know, that works okay, but obviously it doesn't scale very well. It's sort of a problem if you want to try and transact with someone from the next village. The upside being, and this is unique to relationship transactions, if he and I are good friends, and I may have bailed out his basement last winter, maybe he wants to marry my daughter, who knows. Maybe I've got a surplus of pots, and he has some meat that I really want. Maybe he has a surplus of meat and really wants some pots. We can then exchange at much better than what would otherwise be the market rate, right? And so this is really good. This is something that's greatly advantageous. But again, it doesn't scale. If someone from the next village comes in and says, hey, give me a bunch of your pots, and I swear I'll come back with a steak this fall, who am I to believe them, right? It just doesn't answer the question. Well, what's interesting is this type of problem, the small village problem, which money was in many ways devised to answer, has now been largely ameliorated by the fact that your village is now the whole freaking world, right? So a couple decades ago, we started playing with this thing on the internet, and now we've got access to anybody anywhere, which is fantastic. So we're starting to see a bunch of new platforms evolve. If I wanted to get a neat little apartment in Paris and trade it for my apartment in Brooklyn, then I can do that, no problem. Airbnb allows me to do it. If I want to get a ride by someone who I know is not going to drive into a light pole and is going the direction that I want to go for a price I'm willing to pay, I can do that too. I can find them on Uber. I can even figure out which one of my neighbors has a lawnmower and is looking to borrow my hedge trimmer, right? So this is kind of cool. We're having a bunch of pre-financial models starting to port themselves onto the internet and using all the scope and scale that the internet provides to make them more effective. That's neat. So that's another way you can answer the question of what your mom is worth, is your mom is worth whatever she wants to trade with you for. So now, the reason I bring this up, and the reason why I say that it's an impact of your wealth for the next 5 to 20 years, is that all these pre-financial models are still being widely used today. It's just that they're mostly being used as part of what we call the black market. Now, the black market is actually really big. It's $10 trillion today. The only economy bigger is the US economy at $14 trillion. It's also growing really fast. It's going to be the biggest market in the world in another 5 to 20 years. Right now, by 2020, 2 out of every 3 working people will be exchanging on the black market. It's also truly global. Right now in the US, it's estimated that 1 out of every $7 exchanged is exchanged on the black market. So that's startling. At least for me, that was a little startling. But it's really interesting when you then consider that the bulk of the people that are transacting on the black market, that are using this, aren't on the internet yet. Those of you watching now are part of 1/3 of the human race who are on the net. And we're all having a great time trading apartments with people in Paris and whatnot and enjoying trading pictures of cats and emails and all this other good stuff. It's really delightful, right? But what happens over the next 5 to 20 years as that entire population starts to get smartphones and jumps online? How are they going to do commerce? Are they going to rush down to Citibank to open a checking account, or are they going to use the same exact models of exchange that they always have and that have worked so well for them? Well, I would say that the latter is more likely, not least because Citibank won't necessarily have them. After all, to open a bank account, you need to have a steady address. You have to have a social security number. You have to fill out a bunch of paperwork. You have to be literate. These are not things that the entire world has. But those people can open a Bitcoin account, right? They can take a Square dongle, put it in their phone, and accept your credit card. That's different. Now, I call this capitalism's Napster moment, right? We all remember Napster. This was when a guy named Sean Fanning realized that you could trade music as easily as you trade pictures of cats. So he made a website where everyone could go and do exactly that, and everyone loved it. It was awesome, right? Get your music for free. Until the Recording Industry Association of America came along and said, yeah, actually, that's our business model that you're walking all over, and they shut him down, right? But what happened next is what the internet does, right? What the internet did was said, hey, great, so we can't do that anymore, right? Here's BitTorrent. And all of a sudden, you could download your music again, the same way as before. Now the RIA came along and tried to shut that down, and then we got better anonymizing software, we got invite-only file sharing clubs, we got better crypto, and this arms race went on for quite a while until a hardware company came along, Apple, and said, okay, look, here, you can have your music, and we'll throw in a music player, and we'll give you some curation and some community features and some cover art, and we'll make it so you can play it on a bunch of devices, and we'll just charge you $1 a song for the whole thing. And for most people, that was a great answer. Cool, I'll do that. But they didn't replace music piracy. They just made a viable alternative. For me, what we see with things like Uber, Neighbor Goods, Airbnb, is exactly what we saw with Napster. Many of them are going to be crushed. But what comes up in their stead is going to be bigger, better, faster, and particularly better suited to the 2/3 of the human race that are about to come online and are eager to spend and buy. So my question to you, as you go home tonight and as you go back to your offices and your businesses, is are you optimizing to extract more money out of these systems, or are you optimizing for your mom? Thanks very much.